In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Pilate asks Jesus, "What is truth?" The word of the year back in 2016 was really two words put together, but it was post-truth. And ever since then, we've been talking about living in a post-truth era. And that has never been seen more than I guess it is at the moment in our political conversations and in the political atmosphere we're in, and been writ large in the last week or so in Melbourne, with people protesting in the most disgraceful way outside of Parliament House. This is a clear manifestation of being in a post-truth world. These people are doing nothing that is based on truth, not even in any way on fact. When Pilate says to Jesus, "Jesus, I come to bear witness to the truth," I've imagined different ways in which Pilate may have actually said that. What is truth? And that's normally, said in a kind of a philosophical, questioning kind of way. What is truth? My guess is it's probably more, what is truth? It's a mocking thing. The truth doesn't really matter. All that matters is power. All that matters is spin and manipulation. In recent times, the President of France has questioned the truthfulness of our own Prime Minister, asked, do you think the Prime Minister lied? And President Macron says, "I know he lied." So truth doesn't seem to matter anymore. And we're seeing the scaffolding around our society crumbling simply because truth and the civility that is based on truth is starting to melt away. And I think it is beholden not just to Christians, but to everyone of goodwill not to stand by and to allow the scaffolding that truth creates around our social structures to be torn down. Jesus said, "For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth." Well, perhaps to explore what that means, we first need to explore what Jesus means by the world. A little bit before that, he is quoted as saying, my kingdom is not from this world. And that's often misinterpreted to try and totally separate the concepts of ethics and morals that are often brought by religious stories and structure from the political world. That is not what he is saying. So one of the first things we need to explore, at least in St John's Gospel, is the word world. And I've talked about this 100 times before, but in the introduction to John's Gospel, where he sets up all his framework for the rest of the Gospel, he uses the word cosmon, where we get our English word world from, three times in the one sentence in three different ways. Speaking of the incarnate Logos, speaking of Jesus Christ, St John says, "He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world knew him not," or the world did not know him. In the first sense of that word, he is speaking of the cosmon, or what we would call the cosmos, and we would understand that word in the same way, that the entire universe. And this weekend we celebrate officially what's called the solemnity of Christ, the King of the universe. So this is a very big Christ that we're celebrating. We shy away from kings and things a bit these days. So in modern parlance, sometimes we call this the feast of the reign of Christ. In other words, we're seeking something that is over and above all the political shenanigans that go on in this world, and something greater than that. So the world was created through him. The cosmos was the entire physical universe is created through the divine word. And he was in the world. So I'll go back a step. The way we understand that, the way we engage the cosmos is significantly through science. But beyond that breaks down very quickly when we start to look at the big picture. And so it is a mystery. When we think about the eternal cosmos, it is never-ending. It is our minds break down, and we move into the area of mystery. So significantly, we engage in that through mystery. Sometimes when I talk about the first chapters of the Bible in terms of myth and mystery, people will say, well, it's not true then. And I'll say, well, no, it may not be factual, but it is true. So when we engage in the mystery of the universe, we are engaging in something that is beyond fact, but not beyond truth. So he was in the world, we are told. And the use of world in that sense is the physical environment in which we live and move and have our being. We might define that as planet Earth. And so the divine Logos comes into our physical being, our physical realm, that which we can physically touch and move through. He was in the world. And we engage in that world primarily through science. And primarily through fact. We do know a fair bit about this world and the way it works, and we can apply scientific practice to discovering more and more and more about it, and that's really important. And so we could say that we engage in the physical world through fact, through the universal world through mystery, through the physical world that we are able to access through fact. But then we are told the world did not know him. And what we are understanding about that understanding of world is the domination system, the way in which we human beings relate to one another, the way, the politics of human life, all of those things that go. That's when he's saying, my kingdom is not from this world. That's the world he's talking about. My kingdom doesn't operate like this world operates, through power and through spin and through all of those kind of things that we now. That's not the way Jesus operates. So while we engage in the big picture through mystery, in the immediate world through fact, we engage in the world of the nomination system through truth. I came into the world, into the domination system, to testify to the truth. And what we have seen in Melbourne and in other places in recent times is the clearest demonstration of the antithesis to truth. There is nothing truthful about what is going on in those protests. In fact, it is beyond not being truthful. It is disgustingly, devastatingly destructive. Truth, or lies for that matter, is what we do with facts. We can take one small bit of information and we can build on it, and we can use it for truth, or we can manipulate it and turn it around and use it for lies. I put up a sign down the front this week about the Melbourne protests saying just no, Melbourne protesters, just no. And the amount of misinformation that I was bombarded with on social media was just extraordinary. And these people clearly believe all this misinformation and are acting upon this misinformation. And it's being fed to them by people who wish to manipulate for their own selfish reasons. Clearly, when Jesus says, I came into this context of misinformation, of manipulation, of spin. It's no different really today than it was 2,000 years ago. Pilate used it just as much as our current politicians use it. I was born for this. I came into the world to testify to the truth. And Pilate's response to that is the response that we get from many of our elected leaders today. Psst, what is truth? Doesn't matter. In fact, it gets in the way of what we want to achieve. And yet on this feast of the reign of Christ, it's never more important than we take that reign seriously, and it doesn't mean making the whole world Christian. It doesn't mean mixing governance with religion, which always turns out badly. But it does mean not walking past lies. It does mean putting such a high value on the use of facts in an appropriate way. It puts an extremely high value on the social scaffolding that truth brings. Could you have ever imagined living in a country where an effigy of a state premier would be hung on gallows outside of a state parliament? Could you ever imagine living in a country where that would happen? Never in my lifetime could I ever have imagined that. That's what happens when the scaffolding of truth is torn down in our society. And so those of us who are serious about the reign of Christ must first know that it is about the reign of truth. Because without truth, there is no human rights. A post-truth world is a post-human rights world. So there are three ways in which we mainly engage in the cosmos, in the world: through mystery, through fact, and through truth. And without the three of those, our society will crumble. So let us at least begin by building the scaffolding of mystery, of fact, and of truth for the good of our entire society. The Lord be with you.